This is Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast. With your hosts, Brendan Spinner, Michael Burns, and Kyle Rose.
And welcome into another edition of Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast. I'm Brandon Spinner. As always, I am with Michael Burns and Kyle Rhodes. This is episode 6.5. Because we did have a special episode that dropped over the weekend. If you haven't heard that already, it was a recap of the ALCS and NLCS. But this is the sixth one that all three of us are together again. It's good to see you, gentlemen. It's been so long. How you doing, Mikey?
Well, I'm a little frustrated because we haven't had baseball in 2 days after having multiple games every day.
Otherwise, how are you?
I'm doing all right.
You're doing
I'm doing all right. Other frustration is the clubhouse I built for my girls was missing parts, so I do have to wait for that. I spent 3 hours looking for those parts, thinking that she walked off with them somewhere.
JoJo's got them somewhere.
Only to realize, they just got them. But I'm good.
Kyle, how you doing, buddy?
I'm all right, man. Planning the daughter's second birthday, and
awesome.
Really ready for Sober October to be over.
That makes
me
two
too.
of us. That makes three of us. Well, as always, this is a bourbon and baseball podcast, Barrels and Barrels. We always talk about our listeners. You guys are what makes us who we are. I want to give a big shout out to all of you. Bourbon in the Burrow just hit 1,000 followers on Instagram today. Big congrats to him. He's been probably our most loyal follower, at least Boyus, the one who's been the most interactive and responded to messages and all that. Big shout out to him. Jerry, who goes by a Whiskey Kid and His Peppers on Instagram, also has been great. Michael, I know you.
Zamboni driver, right?
Yeah, at least that's his Instagram page picture. Michael, you were talking earlier about that the new follower. We've got Books, right?
Yeah, Books he jumped on our Instagram live with us that Brandon and I had during the Phillies-Padres game. Was that game 3?
That was game 3. It was on Friday.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
We had some interaction with some folks.
Yeah, Mr. Liquor Sipper.
Enjoyed a bottle.
Yeah, Mr. Liquor Sipper, as well as Max jumped in. A lot of Astros fans, a lot of Phillies fans. And a big shout out to Sportstown Network Podcast. They had me on last night to talk some baseball, so big thank you to them. Another shout out real quick, Lisa. You can find her on Instagram at bourbon_brown-eyed_gal. She's mentioned she listens to us while she's at the gym. So thank you for listening to us in the morning while you're working out.
One more rep, Lisa. One more rep. Come on,
so
push.
You got it.
And a special shout out to Chris. He is Broken Eye Pro. He was listening to us while he was throwing his discs the other day.
He's a big disc golfer. I know that. So cool. Thank you to each and every one of you. I met Tanya. She was out at Boone County Distilling Company earlier this past weekend.
Boone
County. I got to meet her. So that was cool. And I got to get a new Glencairn at Boone County Distilling Company. Awesome place. So if you're ever in Boone County, Kentucky, just south of Cincinnati, go check them out. Speaking of bourbon, is the bourbon part of the podcast. Gentlemen, this week we are going with a bottle that Michael has sent me a review. Not a review. He sent me a sample of a couple of weeks or maybe a couple months ago at this point. Sweetens Cove Kennessee bourbon, which is a 110.7 proof bourbon. And I emphasize Kennessee and not Tennessee. Michael, can you go into a little more depth of what we're drinking tonight and how it gets its name?
Yeah, so you heard Brandon. We're going to review and drink here Sweetens Cove Kennessee. Not Sweetens Cove, they're 13-year. They put out a limited release earlier this year in April of 2022, that is a cheaper version of Sweetens Cove. Not the like I said, not the 13-year. This doesn't have an age statement on it, but it is a different bourbon than their 13-year. It's called Sweetens Cove Kennessee. Because it is a mix of Kentucky and Tennessee-style bourbon whiskeys. Where does that term Kennessee come from? Kentucky and Tennessee, two neighboring states. There was an argument over if land was sat on the border, who does it belong to, Tennessee or Kentucky? And so even after that dispute was settled, the term was, that land was still termed Kennessee. You lived in Kennessee if that land was shared between both states. Didn't know if you guys knew that.
That's a fun
cool.
fact.
Yeah, if one owned or squatted on land right on the border, they lived in Tennessee.
So does this mean this is a Kentucky and Tennessee bourbon? Did you mention that already?
Yeah, it's a mixture of Kentucky and Tennessee style whiskeys.
So that means that they're probably sourcing it, I would assume, maybe from Bardstown and Dickel. I mean, they can source it from a couple of places. But you mentioned it's a sugar, or is it a sugar maple finished?
So it's finished with toasted sugar maple wood,
Okay.
but it's not finished in a barrel. It's aged and then placed into stainless steel containers where that toasted maple wood is put in.
Just
that
like
container.
a floating piece of the wood in the container.
Right.
Okay, cool. Off the nose, right off the top, I've got cinnamon. Very strong cinnamon. I think that it smells hot to me. Not all bourbons have that. That could just be part of me not smelling a whole lot of whiskey here, being that it's been sober October, and I've only had 3 1-ounce pours throughout the last 4 weeks. 6 more days to go. But
Yes, please.
it's got a little, I feel a little bit of fire just through the nose. Do you get that, Mike?
No, see, I get the hint of what you're saying, but I really got to blame sober October here. I think your palate's a little
A little tainted.
young,
Yeah.
a
It's
little tainted.
reset.
Yeah, I think if you take a bottle off the shelf and your first pour is 130
Oh, yeah,
proof,
it'll knock you
120
right
proof
out,
pour,
yeah.
it's gonna burn more. Where if you work your way up to that, and I think that's what's going on with your palate, Brandon. I think we're gonna
Probably.
have to set you up like a schedule to work you back in because
It's like lifting.
I don't know. If, yeah, take it easy, Brandon. We don't want to find you on your front lawn.
So you're telling me I shouldn't pour the 136 Elijah Krug barrel proof for my first pour?
Is it 136?
One of the ones is. I think that was
Oh
the
my
2020.
So help me if you do
version.
that to me.
We need to have him have a. I hope he has an Apple Watch that if he hits the ground at impact that we know.
Did you have a
and
hard
alerts
fall?
us.
So the notes on the nose, at least, I've got cinnamon. I'm pulling a little more vanilla the more I revisit it. And I'm drinking out of an aged in ore glass. Michael's got one as
Hey,
well.
me too.
As you can
Did
see.
we just become best friends?
Yep. So Aged in Ore, I want to give them a shout out. They're not a sponsor by any means, so don't think that that's why we're doing this.
But you totally
I will
could
say
be.
this. They could. I mean, Aged in Ore, we would love to be sponsored by you. Hint, hint. These are incredible glasses. If you haven't had one before, I would highly recommend it. They've also got some other cool merchandise to help you travel with your bourbon, because that is what a lot of people do. When you go on vacation and you don't want to take a whole bottle, but maybe you want to take several different samples. They've got a sampler package.
Or you want to send samplers to your buddy?
Yeah, you want to send samples
Safely.
to your buddy for safe keeping. And they've got a travel case for the glass itself. So really cool. Aged Ore. This one is engraved.
Great weight to it.
Yes, it's
Great weight to it. That's what I love about it.
yeah. Very, very good stuff. Ironic, we didn't plan this out, Michael and I. It's just so we didn't at all. So it's kind of funny that we both chose this one. But sipping out of that, I've got the original hit for me is one of those cinnamon fireballs that you would get at a candy store. Right off the top.
I get mostly some butterscotch. I don't get much vanilla. I don't
have any vanilla,
I get
no.
the orange. No vanilla. But mostly a butterscotch, some maple on the palate.
Maple's definitely there. I got a little bit of that citrus on the back end. Viscosity's pretty good. It's not thin. It's got a pretty decent body to it, if that makes sense. It stays full throughout the entire sip and the entire pour, so that's really good as well. And the color is very amberish.
It is a very good color.
Very good color. So If you had to rate this, Mikey, what would you rate it?
So I'm not a big sweet drinker person. I don't enjoy margaritas. They're too sweet for me. But this has a different kind of sweetness. And I think it's that toasted sugar maple. It's not overly sweet, but it's good. I mean, at the most, it's an everyday player.
Yeah.
But I think that's a stretch.
I'm right there. I'm like in that flex between a bench player and an everyday player. Not someone who sees the lineup every day, but not someone who's going to be on the bench all year. It's in between to me. It's probably that pinch hitter you go to when you need the first big hit of the game, maybe in the 7th or 8th inning. It's not your best pinch hitter, but it's a good pinch hitter. So I'm gonna go with the bench rating out of the 5 that we have, but it's kind of that versatility player who, when needed, could become the everyday player. But I'm going bench on this one.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. You got that guy to change things up in the game. I think it'd be a great bottle to take to like a bottle share.
Oh, for sure.
You're not spending too much money sharing. I mean, that's you. Of course, you want to share bourbon, but this is a great change up to send to folks.
Yeah, and it's for a decent price point, $60. It's not awful. It's right there along with a lot of those new craft distilleries. So $60, it's cheaper than the big name brand Sweetens Cove. And when we were talking about this, Peyton Manning is a part owner, and I believe I saw Andy Roddick is one of the people's involved with this as well, the tennis player, along with 4 others. And did you mention the golf course, Mikey?
No, I mentioned that not only if you go to the distillery, they've got a great golf course there.
I think we need to get a tee time.
Yeah, I think it's you got to register like when they release it in the spring or late winter. You do have to sign up. I think they go quickly. My brother-in-law has talked about how we need to go. He's a big Tennessee fan, so Peyton Manning fan.
And this is in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, which is right up the road from Huntsville. That's right just to the west of Chattanooga, so it's relatively close.
Yep.
So if you're in North Alabama, into the Huntsville area or the Chattanooga area, that's right down the street from you, right just north of the Tennessee-Alabama state line there as you would cross over on Highway 72. So cool stuff. I enjoy this pour. It's just not going to be an everyday pour. Sticking with the bourbon theme, big news in the bourbon world today, Mikey. All the bourbon aficionados are freaking out. And I am too. The Buffalo Trace Antique Collection.
And I am too.
The Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, they released today that all 5 bottles are back. Last year, of course, George T. Stagg didn't make it. Daddy didn't make it. For those of you who don't know what the joke is there, Buffalo Trace has Stagg Jr., and then there's GTS, which is George T. Stagg, which is one of the higher-end bourbons that they put out. But all 5 bottles from the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection will be back this year, and they're all at that same price point as always, $99 MSRP. I think it's $100 this year, so maybe it's $1.
I've never seen that one for that in my life. Of course, I live in Alabama.
Yeah, that's part of it. And also because the secondary pricing is outrageous. Kyle, this is up there with Pappy Van Winkle when it comes to the sought-after bourbons put out by the same company, Buffalo Trace Distillery. Personally, I think I might rather try to find one of these bottles. I do have one. I have a George T. Stagg from 2020. That was a birthday present to myself back literally on my birthday. I didn't ever think I was going to run across one, and sure enough, so I had to...
Where'd you find it?
Up there in Fayetteville, Tennessee. So just up the road.
Really?
Yeah. I believe it was Strong Brothers Liquor Store over there that I got it at on November 12th, 2020. That means my birthday is November 12th. A couple of weeks away.
Hint, listeners.
Hint. If anybody's got a pour that they'd like to share. No, by all means. I'd love to get a bottle of William L. Weller, which is one of the other bottles. The other 3 is the Sazerac Rye, the 18-year. They've mixed it with 19-year-old barrels this year. And then the Eagle Rare 17. And there's also the Thomas H. Handy, which is the barrel-proof version of Sazerac Rye, which is about a $27 bottle from Buffalo Trace regularly. So that is proof down. This is just the barrel proof version at 6 years. Mike, if you had to pick one of the 5, what would it be that you were going after the hardest?
I would say that it's that WLW. I'm a sucker for a good weeded bourbon. I've tried. I haven't had Jorte's Stag. I haven't had Daddy. I've had Stag Junior, which is, just basically, if you haven't had it, it is a barrel proof Buffalo Trace. And it's fantastic. The George T. Stag or Stag Junior.
And Stag now too. Even I think they dropped the Junior, didn't they? That was a big controversy.
It's all grown up.
It's graduated. It's going on to bigger and better things.
You compared it to Pappy, but Pappy's only like 90 proof, or 92 proof.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, the 23-year is not worth it for the price when the 15-year is just as good, if not better. But those are weeded bourbons, so that's going to probably pair up more with the WLW. But these are all higher proof, and this year something different. Well, not something different. Eagle Rare 17-year is again at 101 proof. They've been doing that for a couple of years. It used to be right on par with the regular Eagle Rare, which is at 90 proof, their 10-year. So this year it's at 101 again. And as I mentioned, a little bit of a change. The SAS 18 is actually a mix of 18 and 19-year-old barrels. So I would love to see a bottle. It's one of those, oh my God, I can't believe I saw that kind of thing. It's very rare to find, Kyle, just to put that in perspective. Another kind of rare thing to find was the Blue Run bottles that just went out last week. Did you see anything about that last week, Mikey?
No, I saw Blue Run first came around, and everybody was trying to sell it in secondary, thinking everybody wanted it. But no, I didn't see what you're talking about with that Blue Run.
So they had a release last week. They did their flight series. They had 6 different flavors, micro batches. They didn't make a whole lot of them. The one I tried to get was called Seattle Downpour. Obviously, I went for it for the weather reasons, but also it had some of the better tasting notes that I looked for. They released these 2 a day last week. It was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. These are distilled by Castle Key, and they were gone.
Are they?
Yeah, they were gone in 30 seconds. Yeah, 30 seconds. Disappeared in 30 seconds. I literally had it in my cart, and as I went to check out, they said out of stock. So awesome.
I think they should give you like a 5-minute window.
Right, it's like
sites do that.
Ticketmaster.
If it's in your cart,
Right.
you have it reserved, like tickets do. If you got
Right.
World Series tickets in your cart, those are yours for 12
I
minutes.
will congratulate Blue Run because that's pretty cool for them. I have yet to try Blue Run. I think I've got a sample in a box that just came in the mail today from Whiskey and Wander, Amanda. So I'll check that out. But big shout out to Blue Run. Also, real quick, Old Forester making news this week or within the last week. They've now hired a new master taster. Melissa Rift will be replacing Jackie Zykan, Jackie was with Old Forester for a long time. She's a huge name in bourbon. She actually branched off by herself to create her own distillery, Hidden Barn Distillery, and they put out their first bottles this year. So a big shout out to her. Congrats to her.
What's that called? The distillery's called Hidden
Hidden
Barn.
Barn.
Is the bourbon just called
Hidden Barn. It's a really cool label if you want to check it out. It's got it's a white label, and it's got like the Hidden Barn has some barn stuff to the word. So cool stuff there. And real quick, Offerman Edition whiskey, aged 11 years this year. That was just said that it's going to be released. That's the Lagavulin Offerman Edition, 11 years in shaved and recharred oak cask. So that's going to be a Scotch. The only reason I bring this up is last year, the Guinness version, the Guinness cask won Whiskey Advocate's Whiskey of the Year. So out of all the whiskeys that came out last year, this one got the number 1 from Whiskey Advocate. So I think it's got.
Maybe we'll have to try it sometime, Brandon. Maybe
you know a guy?
we'll get that Offerman whiskey.
You know a guy?
You have to do a review on here.
For those of you who hear the name Offerman, Parks and Rec, Nick Offerman, Ron Swanson. So that would be a cool bottle.
I know more than you.
Keep your tears in your eyes where they belong. I would probably cry if I saw that bottle. I'd cry if I got another Buffalo Trace Antique Collection bottle. That's for sure. So moving on, we touched on the bourbon part. Let's go to the baseball part. The Phillies and the Padres, the NLCS. It was close, but it ended up finishing as a 4-1 series with the Phillies, of course, moving on. Michael, what stood out in this series to you? What were your thoughts of the series as a whole before we go game by game?
The Phillies showed up. The Phillies bats all the way through the lineup. They were patient. They drove the ball. Frickin' Zach Wheeler, 2 games pitched in this series, right? He started 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
He was fighting for NLCS MVP as we were in discussion during the series until Bryce Harper hit that 8th inning home run.
Yeah.
That changed things.
Yep.
But the Phillies showed up, bats all the way through and pitching.
Yeah. Kyle, you see any of the games?
I only got to see one good chunk, like one game, a good long while. But like Mike said, we kind of talked earlier in the last podcast, we thought that the Padres pitching was going to dominate these bats, but the bats showed up better than we thought.
Yeah. We talked last week how pitching and defense for the Phillies was the most suspect part of any of these teams. And the defense turned out to be suspect. A couple of times, it's just the bats out-hit that defense. And Jean Segura in Game 3, really, I believe, is when it really shined. He was the one who came up with the big hit after 2 mental mistakes within the same inning. How often do you see that? A mental mistake with a bad error. He dropped literally a ball at second base. And then he comes up with a big 2-out, 2-strike knock, just throwing the bat at the ball, knocking in the go-ahead runs, and then literally 2 seconds later, picked off.
Yep.
Right, like
That's got to feel great just to get that off your back, that weight. And that's what the Phillies did. They didn't try to smash the ball every time by just putting the ball in play, making contact, make things happen.
I will say there were a lot of home runs hit by the Phillies, which benefited them. Game 1, not a high-scoring game, very well-pitched game between Darvish and Wheeler.
Yep.
The difference is, and John Smoltz said it the entire postseason so far, solo home runs aren't going to beat you. Well, they beat you. Bryce Harper hit a solo shot early in the game, and then Kyle freaking Schwarber.
Schwarber, the Schwarzenegger.
For those of you who are just listening, I was just pointing to my Kyle Schwarber Cubs jersey, number 12.
Ohio boy.
In your program. Middletown, Ohio boy. But I'm really happy to see Kyle. That home run, man. 488 feet, 120 miles per hour off the bat. Crushed.
And that's what Kyle did well. He not only hit home runs, Kyle walked multiple times. He even then stole 2 bases in this postseason so far. So even in Game 5, Schwarber came up the bat in a 0-0 game and worked a 2-out walk, which was actually his 3rd walk of the game.
He had,
at that point,
he had walked 3 times in Game 5. He had 6 total walks in the entire series. He was an on-base machine, which is he finally did that thing in the leadoff spot this year that the Cubs had hoped for when they put him in the leadoff spot back in 2017. But between him, Hoskins, Harper, even Real Muto had a home run, but Segura came up with a hit. The team hit. Pitching was great, except in Game 2 when they lost 8-5. But the Phillies...
I mean, they scored 5 runs.
Yeah.
That's still...
Right, you would hope that you'd score 5 runs in a
enough.
playoff game and it'd be enough, but you lost 8-5. And then Game 3 went 4-2 to the Phillies. That was the Segura game. Game 4, 10-6 to the Phillies, which the Padres had a lead in, 6-4, and gave up 6 straight runs. Another home run by Hoskins and Schwarber. And then Game 5, that big comeback with Bryce Harper in the bottom.
Did Hoskins hit anything but hit home runs?
My statistics say he batted .222. He was 4 for 18 with 4 home runs. And I think it was the fact that he didn't do anything else but hit home runs in that series that he didn't get the MVP because he hit the 2-run bomb to put them in front early in the game. Boy, did he pimp that one out, huh?
That dude is so
3-0 pitch, too.
animated.
You love it, don't you, Kyle?
Oh, I love it.
You want to get that shirt? Was it Talking Baseball who's got that shirt with him slamming the bat?
Fighting Phils.
Yeah, this whole postseason, he's been one to watch. I did a little more research on him. I didn't realize that he is the longest tenured Philly.
Yep, because of how much turnover they've had in the last couple. I didn't realize. So Harper was hurt the year the Nationals won the World Series, wasn't he?
He wasn't on the field for the World
I don't believe
Series?
so because they kept on saying that this is the furthest that he's ever made it in his playoff career. I think he.
Was that the year Juan Soto came up?
So
I didn't realize Harper was out for the year. That does ring a bell.
And
Hashtag ring the bell.
hashtag ring the bell.
Ring the bell.
But Harper, of course, getting the NLCS MVP. He went 8 for 20 with 2 home runs. He drove in 5. What I think was the most impressive in the 5 games, he struck out once and he walked multiple times. He had 3 doubles.
Putting the ball in play.
Putting the ball in play, and that's what you got to do.
Not striking out.
And that's how you win series.
So speaking of Bryce Harper, one of my buddies I played high school ball with messaged me, and there's a clip going around of Bryce Harper at age 12 pitching in Little League. And I didn't know this, but Bryce Harper came to Huntsville for a tournament.
Okay.
And in that weekend tournament, Bryce Harper at bat went 11 for 12 with 10 home runs.
That's incredible.
As a 12-year-old. Yeah, that was my buddy JP shooting me those stats about him, Bryce Harper, here locally in Huntsville, Alabama.
Hey gang, we wanted to take a break from the booze and ball talk to talk about some booze and ball apparel. Walkoffs and Whiskey is doing something special for you, the listeners. Head over to walkoffsandwhiskey.com and use the code BNB at checkout, and you'll get 10% off your purchase. That's code BNB at checkout, and you'll get 10% off your purchase. Now, let's get back to the show.
And now moving on, let's break this up a little bit with some trivia here, boys. I do have a pair of trivia questions for you, but for time's sake, the Astros, they've gone undefeated so far in the postseason, 7-0. Do you know who's the only team to go undefeated for an entire postseason since divisional play began back in 1969?
So I have to give you the year or just the team?
The team, a year would be great, but...
Let's go with the San Francisco Giants 2010.
And Kyle?
I don't know.
In 1976, the Cincinnati Reds went 7-0 to win the World Series over the Yankees. They defeated the Phillies 3-0 in the NLCS and then beat the Yankees 4-0 in the World Series. The Astros are the third team to do this. Since then, the Reds are the only team to finish undefeated. The other two
Did you
teams,
say Reds versus Phillies?
Reds versus Phillies back in 1976, excuse me, 1796. I was thinking
1776.
Yep. Oh, say, can you see? But so 1976, it was the Reds, and then 2007, the Rockies did it, and then they lost to the Red Sox. And in 2014, the Royals did it, and then they lost to the Giants. So
how quickly some teams fall off. The
Yeah.
Rockies, you forget when they're ever competitive.
that was the Matt Holliday team, I believe, right? That made it all the way to the World Series, and both of those teams had stellar starts to the playoffs, and then the Royals lost to the Giants in 2014. So that takes us into the Astros. Of course, you know now that if you didn't know already, the Astros beat the Yankees, and it was by a sweep, 4-0.
Whoa.
Astros took Game 1 4-2, Game 2 3-2, Game 3 5-0, and then they had a big comeback in Game 4 to go up and win the series 6-5 in a sweep. Did you see any of these games, Mikey?
I mean, I didn't turn them on. At one point, I went to turn it on when we were outside on the patio, but I think we had just started eating dinner on the patio with either Tangled or Frozen on the TV. So I didn't win that battle.
So you saw something better.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't too inclined to turn the Astros Yankees on. I'm a NL kind of guy.
Kyle?
The only time I got to see a game was Sunday night with you, but obviously we were preoccupied doing work.
Yes, we were doing so much work on Sunday. For those of you who work with us, we were doing so much work.
I was doing so much work.
You did the sports ball source, but I did work. I
Work.
kept an eye on baseball, and I kept an eye on the weather, but there was not anything going on weather-wise.
Is that when you made that reel with Kyle's appearance?
No, we taped that last Wednesday, and if you want to check that out, that's on my personal page, WX Spinner, on Instagram.
I think you should definitely check that out.
Check it out. There's a little tease. So the Astros rolled through the Yankees. The big thing in my mind is the Yankees came into this having won Game 5 versus the Guardians last Tuesday, immediately having to fly to Houston to play Game 1 on Wednesday night, which they resultantly lost 4-2. Then they lost 3-2 in Game 2. That means their stud pitcher, Garrett Cole, couldn't start until Game 3 when they were already down 2-0 coming home. He went down early 2-0 off of a miscue in the outfield where Judge and Bader misplayed a fly ball. There was an error, and then the next pitch basically left the yard. Chas McCormick, I believe, the center fielder for the Astros, went yard and hit a two. Yeah, McCormick. He's their center fielder.
Chaz?
I believe that's his name. Kyle, producer Kyle, can you stat correct us?
McCormick Spices?
Yeah, just like the old grilled steak.
Chaz McCormick.
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah, center fielder.
Look, man, this isn't Mike Jones.
At first I thought you were mispronouncing Jake Marisnick.
No, he was with the Pirates this year.
Poor guy.
Yep. Him and his slick hair were with the Pirates this year. But McCormick put it up, and then Cole had some trouble, I believe, in the 6th inning, and they pulled him, and that was pretty controversial. Ended up giving up the 3 runs, and then it was up 3-0 in the series. Jeremy Pena with a big home run in Game 4, and the Astros go on to win. The thing that stuck out to me the most is that the Astros did this without their 2 best players doing a damn thing.
That's what the Astros have been doing the last 5 years, just having more players just come through the pipeline. I mean, they lose Carlos Correa, and
Jeremy Pena,
who just steps right in.
ALCS MVP.
Come on. I mean, props to the Astros for developing players that just, they signed some guys to extensions. They've got their core guys, and when they've turned little wins into big wins. So props to them, but
they're like the Dodgers in the fact that they're continuously replacing their talent with more talent. Like Kyle Tucker comes up. He wasn't the replacement for George Springer because he plays a different position, but he replaced his production in the lineup. And Tucker was one of the best batters in the AL this year. You've got Jordan. You've got Altuve. They supplemented at the deadline with Trey Mancini. So they've got a really good team.
Yeah, I really wouldn't hate them so much
if it wasn't for 2017.
Bad blood.
Yeah.
Yes, because Bregman, he was an LSU stud. So
I love the Alex
Southern
Bregman
guy here.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it still burns with me, baby.
Yeah. What burns? Michael Burns.
Maybe that's a new segment coming up, folks.
I think so. We got to get a sponsor for that. So for those of you listening, hey, I'm going to maybe shout out Dugout Mugs. I got a Dugout mug knob. Knob.
A little nug.
Yeah, a little nug. It's a knob, batter's knob, shot glass. So that's what I'm going to finish the rest of my Kennessee off in. First drink. Tastes the same. So big shout out to Doug.
No, there's no way it tastes the same.
It does taste pretty same. It's probably
Did you
not.
Just finger your bourbon?
I did. I fingered it real good.
All right. So we have to change the rating.
This has been Barrels and Barrels. Thank you very
Kyle,
much.
mark it that 30 minutes in, Brandon fingered his bourbon, and we're going to
Barrels on Barrels at night.
Barrels and Barrels after dark.
You can find that on our Patreon, patreon.com/.
And if you would like to support our podcast, there is a link in our bio, so we'll love that. As far as the NLCS and the ALCS, of course, they chose the MVPs of each series, but we started last week Players of the Week / Weekend. Michael, who would you give yours to?
So I'm not going to go with MVP of Bryce Harper. Mm-hmm. Bryce Harper, he showed up, like you said. I'm going to give it to my boy, Kyle Schwarber.
Mm-hmm.
with how many times he took walks, was patient. Like you said earlier, he was the type of ideal leadoff hitter. So I miss you, Schwartz. Give me a moment, guys.
Kyle?
This one was hard because I wanted to pick Schwarber.
Mm-hmm. Because of the namesake. Because Kyle and Kyle. Kyle stay with Kyle's.
That's it. I couldn't pick anybody from the Astros, even though they had a really good week. I picked Rhys Hoskins.
Rhys Hoskins, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, stud. To list off Kyle Schwarber's stats just for the NLCS, he was 6 for 15. He drove in 4 runs. He had 6 walks to 3 strikeouts. Michael already mentioned 2 stolen bases. He also had an intentional walk, so that is a 7th walk. Here's the crazy thing. His on-base percentage was .571. You pair that with his slugging was 1,000. He had an OPS in these 5 games of 1.571. Insane. But he is not who I'm going to be giving my player of the weekend to. Kyle, you gave yours to Rhys Hoskins. Kyle Schwarber was who Michael gave his to. Zach Wheeler is going to be my player of the week. I thought that he, in his first NLCS, this is the first postseason he's ever played in. For all the years the Mets made it, he was hurt in 2015 and he didn't play. So this is his first year as a playoff pitcher. 2 games,
Participant.
1.38 ERA in 13 innings. He made it into the 7th inning in both starts. He got pulled after giving up a hit to start the 7th inning in game 5, and that run ended up coming around to score. He only gave up 2 runs in the entire series. He had 16 strikeouts in 13 innings. A big shout-out to Zach Wheeler. I think you could give it to any one of those 4 players on the Phillies this weekend.
I think, like you said, Wheeler had it. I think he had the NLCS MVP until Harper hit that game-changing, series-changing home run in the bottom of the game.
Agreed. Harper won the series with that swing, theoretically, because you go back to San Diego, the Padres have their fans with them. They have momentum after winning a game and could have done what the Florida Marlins did back in 2003, but we're not going to go too far into that because I don't want to dig that knife any deeper. So that is our players of the weekend. So let's jump into the World Series predictions here. The Phillies, the 6th seed, taking on the AL number 1 seed, the number 2 seed overall, the Astros. How do you feel about this, Michael?
I think that the Astros are going to win the World Series.
Whammy. Kyle.
So you and I kind of talked about this. Nobody expects a 6th seed to get this far.
Right.
It's kind of like St. Peter's University in the NCAA March Madness. Was it last year, year before?
Mm-hmm.
Like
last year, this past March.
You're now watching. I think non-baseball fans are now watching to see this city with so much hype, who wasn't even supposed to be in the playoffs, now win the World Series. I'm with Michael. I also picked the Astros to win the World Series. But I would love to see these Phillies win the World Series.
And you said something pretty cool there. The Philadelphia fan base, no offense to you Phillies fans, but Philly fans have a very big reputation of being Jags.
Dicks.
Yeah. The Broad Street bullies, the people who booed Santa Claus, the people who throw batteries at Santa Claus. The Eagles fans booed Santa Claus. So it's hard. I never thought I'd find it to where I was rooting for the Phillies, but I'm rooting for the Phillies. But that's not who I think is going to win this series. I'm going with the Astros in 6 games. I just think that what did I say 3 weeks ago when we made our bracket predictions? I said the Astros.
We got to bring up the bracket.
Yep. Oh, we're going to go over that here in a second here, pal. But the Astros just look like a whole different team. I don't think they're going to sweep the Phillies by any means. I think the Phillies may even actually take game 1 this Friday. But I think the Astros probably are going to take a little bit more of an advantage of the Phillies when they make those mistakes. And they're going to be facing Justin Verlander. Justin Verlander's a Cy Young. Kyle, you mentioned one thing to me, or just now, a 6 seed. I've seen a lot of gripe that the Phillies don't deserve this. They shouldn't be here. And that really boils my blood. I don't know who the asshole who was on Twitter saying, they shouldn't be here, don't come at me. But
Ken Rosenthal.
Ken Rosenthal.
I think it was not Ken Rosenthal. It was Scott White of CBS.
Yeah, there's another guy who's out in the suburbs of Chicago with 55,000 Twitter followers. He's some sort of doctor of something. He's not even a baseball guy.
Doctor of bullshit.
Yeah.
Whoa!
A 6 seed. This is exactly what Major League Baseball was hoping for when they extended their playoffs to 6 teams, because any team can make the World Series. It gives anybody hope. It gives you that team next trade deadline. If you're sitting in 8th place, you know that if you upgrade your team enough just to sneak into the playoffs, you've got a chance to not only make the World Series, to potentially win the World Series. So for all of those, this isn't true baseball, go shove it up your ass. Because this is why we play the game. Baseball is, I get the whole, there's a whole, that's not how the game was played. I don't care. Baseball is a dying sport. And this is what the baseball sport needed, just like in 1998 with the home run race. So that's my pedestal that I'm going to get off of. That's my gripe. All to say that I don't think the Astros are going to lose this one to the Phillies, and I picked the Astros in 6 games.
I, too, picked the Astros, Brandon.
And for those of you who are looking to gamble on this, what I do want to say is over at FanDuel Sportsbook, right now the series odds favor the Astros heavily, minus 190. So in order to win $100, you would have to bet $190, where opposed the Phillies are the underdogs at plus 165. So for every $100 you bet, you would get $165 in return. Now, looking ahead at Game 1, that'll be this Friday. First pitch is going to be at 7:03 Central Time. That is 8:04.
The Phillies get a primetime game?
Yes. They did get a couple of them over the weekend, but
probably on accident. A rain delay probably is the only reason I got that. But Phillies, primetime, folks. You can not have to skip work or watch it at work. Let's go.
That'll be on Fox. Justin Verlander going for the Astros in Game 1. Aaron Nola in Game 1 for the Phillies. He is an underdog at plus 142. Again, $100 gets you 142. And the run line is plus 1.5 for the Phillies. They are minus 178 on that, meaning that they are likely to cover that. The over-under is 6.5, and right now the over is juiced at minus 128.
Over under 6.5? What do you think of that with 2 studs going up?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be hard to take the over.
And it seems like the consensus is the over because they normally juice what is the favorite, and over 6.5 right now is the favorite at minus 128. So a lot of the gambling bettors are going with the over in this one. I think it's probably going to end up being a 5-3 matchup in this one. I think one thing we're not thinking of, there's a long layoff for both teams. They haven't played since Sunday. They're not going to play till Friday. I think what's going to have to happen is you're going to have to get to both of them early. If you get through the first 2 innings without scoring against Verlander, you're in big trouble. He's the AL Cy Young. He had an under 2 ERA. So it's going to be a good Game 1. I think the Phillies get Game 2 and Game 3, and the Astros win Games 1, 4, 5, and 6 to wrap it up in Houston.
Man.
So here's the part that Michael didn't want to hear. The bracket update. So far,
we talked about golf earlier. I'm winning that, man. We had to go golf score style.
So it has been decided who won our brackets between the 3 of us. I have 8 points. Michael has 3 points. Kyle has 5. I'm the only one with a team left, and if the Astros win, I would end up with 16 points to Michael's 3 and Kyle's 5. As far as the listeners, this is kind of a close race here. Right now, Joseph Campbell leading with 10 points. Second place, Kristen Swilly with 9. And in third place, Jake Plassmeyer with 8, James Spinner at 7, and also Kyle Braves and Bourbon is at 8 as well. But he does not have it. He does have the Astros in the ALCS, but he had the Atlanta Braves winning. There's only one other person who picked the Astros, and that is Jake Plassmeyer. So if the Astros win the World Series, Jake Plassmeyer will win that bottle of Weather Special Reserve. If the Phillies win, Joseph Campbell, you would be the winner of the Weller Special Reserve at 18 points as well.
Ooh,
So
interesting.
it is going to come down to the final game, and that's what we were hoping for. So cool. Kudos to you guys. Best of luck to Joseph and to Jake, excuse me. And thank you for listening. So that's the update on us. Other things to quickly wrap up. Sober October. We are in the home stretch here. Kyle, how you doing, man? Yeah. I feel that fully. Yes.
It's not so bad. I thought like I was going to be craving things more than I am, but like my body is fatigued.
Oh, for sure.
Like rest days. I can't wait for a rest day. Can't wait for a massage. Can't wait to.
I give you a massage every day.
With your eyes.
What's harder, the food the food cravings or the exercise every day?
The exercise every day.
Yeah, I think the squats are getting to be a little taxing for me.
Yeah, I could do push-ups all day
Typically-
long.
Yeah, typically in a workout routine, you have rest days where you guys don't have rest days with this.
Yeah, 100 push-ups, 200 air squats every day, and then you have to gain points by working out or doing multiple different workouts. I started practicing French this week to help try to gain some points because it's about trying to better yourself. It's not just the sober portion of it or eating healthy, but also trying to better yourself, create new habits. I've done some yoga here and there to gain a point or two. Oui, oui. Oh, français.
Yeah. Your boy's been
Omelette du fromage.
Je suis un garçon.
Yeah, your boy's been doing 2-a-days to make sure we're not TikTok dancing.
Yeah, well, we may be TikTok dancing. Or Michael may be TikTok
Michael's
dancing.
TikTok dancing.
What? That was not part of the deal?
Well, you're going to have to send part of the TikTok dance to us. So you're going to have to TikTok dance. And you're down there, and we're up here. So that's for the losers. For those of you who don't know, the Reaching for the Bars
just Kyle.
No, it was Kyle is going against the producer, but the challenge was the loser of the two. Their podcast had to do a TikTok dance challenge chosen by the
I
other
thought it was
podcast.
just a producer that
No.
had to do.
No. It's the entire
Crap.
podcast.
Kyle, I'm about to send you some protein in the mail, man.
Too late. Edge Fitness Performance, we would love that, but they also sponsor Reaching for the Bar, so they would probably be a little
Jacob
biased.
over at Edge. Jacob over at Edge.
Don't you love a good
he
inspiration
doesn't love
story?
me.
Bum, bum, ba, ba, bum, 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 bum. But food craving hasn't been terrible. I am excited to eat some unhealthy food soon.
Like what? What's your number one go-to?
Pizza.
Pizza, probably pizza. Like legit pizza. I've been doing this flatbread bullshit for the last couple of weeks where it's a lavish bread. It's good. It's a healthy version of a pizza, but it's not the real
Cauliflower
stuff.
crust?
I-
No.
Cauliflower crust?
I literally made crust with canned chicken.
What in the world?
Yeah. Hey, you got to do what you got to do to get through. I will give a shout out
Chicken
to.
crust?
Yeah,
Yeah.
bro. Keto.
Just straight chicken?
It's
That's
a
it?
keto diet. Yeah, that's how they do it.
You
on
take a
keto.
canned chicken, egg, and some Parmesan cheese, slab that bad boy together, piece it together, bake it, then put shit on top and bake it again.
You don't want to find something else to eat?
Look,
It's
bro,
better
that
than-
was in my pantry.
You got chicken out of your pantry, bro?
Canned chicken.
Canned chicken,
Canned
yeah, I guess, yeah. Well,
that's
that
in my
has been your
emergency
Sober
stash.
October update.
not
I will
choosing
say,
that.
I feel better. I am down about 8 pounds, I think, over the month. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling leaner. I feel the cardio is much better when I do my workouts. Like I have more energy throughout the entire workout. So my aerobic capacity has really been built up over the last month. And I've been consistent. My legs are sore, and it's hard to do the squats every day. I still need to rep out some now, but here through 26 days, that means we'll have done 2,600 push-ups and 5,200 air squats so far. And however many pounds you weigh in water, divide that by 2 and multiply that by 26. So I'm not going to do the math. But that's you Reaching for the Bar Sober October update. You boys over there at RFTB, you're going down Chad and what Steve was the other name? Is that what
Steve.
Steve?
No, I'm Steve.
You sure?
No, you're Steve. It's a Chad and Trey. That's right. Trey
Trey.
Thomas Traverson. So that has been episode 6 of Barrels and Barrels, the Bourbon and Baseball podcast. Next week, we're going to probably be recording a few more that you'll hear, whether it's just myself, maybe Michael. We're going to do some recaps every game of the World Series. You can find us on Instagram for some more breakdowns of that as well. That is at Barrels and Barrels Pod on Instagram. Michael, myself.
Be on the lookout for us doing some Instagram lives during the World Series games.
Yeah, we're going to try to do.
Me and Brandon did that for, what we say, Game 3 of the Phillies?
It was Game 3. It was fun. We had a lot of viewers pop in and out, a lot of comments. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. We'd love to hear you rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Just scroll down. There's a 5-star logo or something along that. I know that's how it is on Apple iTunes podcast. Click the 5-star or 4-star. Please do a 5-star, but if it's a 4-star for you, do a 5-star and then just type out the 4-star thing. But honestly, we would love to hear your open and honest opinion of our podcast. What you like that we do, what you don't like that we do.
What you want to see.
And what you want to see. You're going to try to be putting out a lot more content here over the next couple of weeks, and a lot of that's going to be around the World Series, but we've got some cool stuff coming down the pipe over the next week or so. So thank you again for listening. I am Brandon with Michael and Kyle. You can find us on Instagram. Just search all of the links here in the bio at the bottom of this page. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're on YouTube. You can stream us there, and maybe we'll be doing streams at some point down the road. And also email us if you need anything there. For your Barrels and Barrels podcast, I'm Brandon with Michael and Kyle. Thanks for listening, and have a great rest of your week. Go Phillies.
Go Phillies.
Go Phillies.
Let's go. Let's go.